Hello and welcome everyone to our weekly podcast broadcast of This Week in Science. Ooh, it's spooky and quiet in here. I'm the only one home. Are there noises in the house? It must be science. Okay, this is This Week in Science. We do our weekly podcast broadcast live streaming Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you are here right now, please hit the likes, the thumbs up, all of the shares, and get us into those algorithms so that we can be shared with everybody who wants to watch live video streamed right now. Also, this is going to be edited if there are any issues, troubleshooting, etc. It'll be edited out for the final podcast version, and you can find that all places that podcasts are found. Oh my goodness, I'm so scared. I'm alone in the dark, but I have nice spooky colored lights. That's what we're supposed to do here, yes? Okay, friends, are you ready? Are you ready for this science show? Is my microphone going? Yes, flying out. One host. That's it tonight. But we have a guest, so it's going to be fantastic. It always is fantastic. You ready? It's time. It's time. I'm waiting for the thumbs up from the audience. Let's do this. I'm already here, so let's start this show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 992, recorded on Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Science for the Greater Good. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight it's a spooky evening. Well, it's almost spooky. It's the day before spooky. We're going to fill your heads with reanimation, the flip side, and scary clowns. But first, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The weather is storming. The fires are warming. The cauldrons to boil. Wild winds drive rain, and unknown howls drive fear through your brain. The season of the witch is upon us, and visions of ghouls haunt us as children chant their refrain. Trick or treat! Trick or treat! Your choice. You spin. Just get your ballot in by next Tuesday. And remember that even on Twisaween, we've got good science for you here on This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science. What's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science.
Good science to everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science, and thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful Twisaween episode of This Week in Science. I am alone in the podcast tonight to bring you the science, but I will be joined by a guest. We have an interview with Juliana Tafur from the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. On this week's show, I have a few quick stories for you about mirroring life, reanimating viruses, and scary clowns. Why don't we like them? There's science on that now. People want to know. Why don't we like scary clowns? What is it about them? What happened to you that made you not like the clowns, everybody? Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. As we jump into the stories tonight, I do want to remind all of you that subscribing to TWIS as a podcast, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. We also stream live Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And if you look for This Week in Science or TWIS Science on social platforms or these platforms I just told you about, you're going to find us. If it's just too much information for you, just remember that our website is twis.org. And you can find lots of great information there, like show notes, and you can contact us through comments and all sorts of things like that. We hope that you're doing it. Come on. Oh my gosh, it's the end of October. But I'm not scared. It's time for science. Okay, we're going to dive in here. Ooh, into the mirror land first. What do I mean when I'm talking about the mirror land? It's not the inside out, it's not the upside down. It's Alice in Wonderland, stepping through the mirror into the flip side of the world. As you see me right now, I am flipped. As I see myself, I'm putting my right hand up, but maybe my left hand is coming up, or it looks like my left hand's coming up and waving at you. It's my right hand. I'm mirrored. That's the way that the cameras work and the way that it puts us forward to the world. So that's what I'm seeing as I'm looking at this camera and at this screen. And so you're seeing me flipped. But if we're looking in a regular mirror, your hand should come up to match it evenly, right? Even Stevens. Everything matches. How does that work? Oh my goodness, light, reflection, refraction. That's a whole nother story. But in the molecular world, what's fascinating is that we don't really do that. We do have these handed molecules. They're called enantiomers. And if you were to pick your left hand up and then your right hand and turn it over, so it's back to front, front to back, that is an enantiomer. They're opposites of each other and flipped around one of the vertices. So everything or most things in life are handed in one way or another. And most of the molecules are one of these enantiomers in biology. So at one point, chemistry, which makes, when molecules are created, makes molecules of the left-handed form and the right-handed form, and they go about their business being created for whatever reason as molecular reactions occur. In biology, things kind of got handed the same way that the majority of people are right-handed. And don't let that teacher in school tell you that you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, that's not going to work out very well for you in the long run. Now, for biology, though, it works out great because we have molecules that fit together like puzzle pieces because of this handedness. The handedness allows us to have DNA, and then the DNA has copies of different molecules that fit with them that's called RNA. And the RNA can then go and become a copy-ish of the DNA. The DNA is transcribed, we call it, when it turns into RNA. The RNA gets carried to a ribosome, and then it gets turned into amino acids. Those amino acids become proteins, and then we say that the DNA, the genes, have been translated into the proteins that are active within our bodies and allow us to function. Now, some things in the nuclei of cells don't go on to become proteins. They just stay RNA. And they're RNA enzymes. RNA can actually make things happen within the nucleus of the cell. So the RNA enzymes can cause genes to be transcribed more or less. The RNA enzymes can change functions of things within the nucleus itself. They can move outside of the cell and go do other things altogether. RNA is this cool thing. It does its own thing. It's awesome. And scientists think that RNA may have been the precursor to DNA, that maybe RNA came first. And if RNA came first, how did it start making itself? One of the things for life is self-replication. If molecules can self-replicate, keep copying, 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 they are capable of making new forms, of being used to create new molecules, to cause all the stuff that happens in our cells, for new life to form, for it to go on and on and on and on. So researchers at the Salk Institute and also at UPVEUH, a research group, the Metal Catalysis and Organocatalysis Research Group, at the Rovira e Virgili University, and also at the University of the Basque Country. Researchers have published a couple of separate studies, but each of them are investigating this handedness of molecules and how to basically do what biology does. How do we get molecules to be left-handed or right-handed, and then possibly use those enantiomers as therapeutic agents. And even further, the work at the Salk Institute, which I absolutely am enamored of, is they've worked on these RNA enzymes. They've taken these RNA enzymes and enabled RNA to make a handshake with a right-handed RNA to make a handshake with a left-handed RNA. And that right-handed RNA to then go on and create a left-handed. So right-handed handshake to left, that molecule with the handshake makes a right-handed RNA. RNA handshake to left, and then again and again, they can create these molecules that flip back and forth and reproduce each other. So it is a self-replicating system using RNA with these mirror images. And potentially, this is one of the steps that is necessary for molecules like RNA to perpetuate themselves and for functions that go on to become life, to even become possible. So I'm very excited about this particular study. We're in a mirror world. We live in it already. But if we can create enantiomer proteins, the fascinating aspect of this therapeutically is our body may not respond to certain enantiomers and won't be like, oh, this is dangerous because it's not the right-handedness. Maybe they won't recognize them and break them down in the same way that they would the other mirror image of them. So it's possible that these mirror image enzymes and molecules and self-perpetuating systems could be used for benefit in our own health systems moving forward. So we'll go from our scary mirror world to the benefits of these RNA molecules. And now I'm going to move on from these right-handed, left-handed RNA bits to another study about pregnancy, because we're talking about life. Why wouldn't I move on to pregnancy? But this is a scary pregnancy story. Did you know that when you become pregnant, I mean, a lot of you out there are not of the uterine persuasion, so maybe you aren't going to become pregnant, but people you know become pregnant. And when they do, it has been discovered that something hidden in our DNA awakens, is reanimated. Why? What are you talking about? Yes. Well, we know that there are silent portions of DNA that come from old viruses that get activated to create the placenta. And additionally, this particular process that was just studied, researchers from the US and Germany studying mice found an immune response that actually leads to an increase in red blood cell production. The researchers were like, oh, that's interesting. Well, the placenta, the body, we need more red blood cells during this period of time. This is pretty important, but shouldn't the immune system be shutting down this kind of viral production of proteins, of genes? What's going on here? So obviously, there is some kind of importance to these bits of DNA that have been historically called junk DNA because they don't become active unless they're triggered by very specific instances, like, for instance, pregnancy. So they took these pregnant mice and they looked to see what happened when they turned off the ability of this particular system to work. And the mice became anemic and their pregnancies failed. They tested this in humans as well, and they found the same system becomes activated in humans who become pregnant. So there are these retrotransposons, is what they're called. These are these bits of DNA that got stuck into our DNA, these genes that got stuck into our DNA once upon a time. And in doing this, they got transposed over and over again, and copies were made. They were maybe inverted and turned around. The DNA kept copying them. Why? Why didn't they get erased? Why weren't they cut out? Probably important, right? Sometimes, I don't know, I have a junk drawer, but I do go through it and clean it out occasionally. And biology is most likely going to do that if it can. So we know that we have these retrotransposons. They are very important. And now that we have determined that these junk DNA segments of code from little viruses can be triggered by very specific reprogramming or restructuring instances that they can be incredibly important. And these viral infections passed down from our ancestors are important because they're involved in pregnancy. So they've only shown it so far in this blood forming system, but they think that there are other stem cells that co-opt these retrotransposons and immune sensors as well during tissue regeneration. Um, so how much of this is being allowed by the immune system? How much of this is being blocked by the immune system? Is this part of some of the diseases related to pregnancy? Um, there's so much that we don't understand. This research was just published in Science magazine this last week. And understanding it could really help us figure out anemia during pregnancy and lead to more healthy pregnancies if we can figure it out. All right, my last story, because once we go from, pregnant moms, of course, we're going to go to the kids and all those kid birthday parties with the clowns. I know everyone has a story out there. Are you afraid of clowns? You're not alone. Coulrophobia. This is a phenomenon known as the fear of clowns. Coulrophobia. This is our word of the day, everyone, if you want to remember this word. And this fear is present in adults, also in children. The research that was just published, researchers actually enacted the Fear of Clowns questionnaire. That's right, the Fear of Clowns questionnaire. Using this Fear of Clowns questionnaire, they had a sample of 987 people between 18 and 77 years of age. They discovered that the individuals in this study, and these are people in South Wales. This study was taken into place at University of South Wales. The researchers found that women are more afraid of clowns than men. We don't know exactly why that is. We also know that a lot of people are afraid of clowns because of traumatic experiences. But what is it that leads to the traumatic experiences? At least half of the respondents had a fear of clowns, with 5% being extremely afraid of clowns. And this is higher than injection fear, needle phobia, 3%, fear of heights, 2.8%, a fear of closed spaces, 22.2%, and a fear of flying is only 1.3% of people. So this is in their sample, a fairly high amount, although this is fewer than 1,000 people, so it can be taken with a grain of salt. However, how do the origins of this fear come into play? And they now have a new set of questions as explanations for the origins of our fear of clowns. The makeup is uncanny valley. So it's like dolls or mannequins. They don't look quite human. And so that eerie or unsettling feeling occurs due to the makeup. So that's one question. The exaggerated facial features convey a direct sense of threat. So the big eyes, the big mouth, everything is threatening as opposed to friendly, even though the big mouth is supposed to be friendly. I'm not sure. This one is interesting. The clown's makeup hides emotional signals and creates uncertainty for people. So maybe it's that uncertainty about what actually is going to be coming. For the color of clown makeup reminds us of death, infection, or blood injury and evokes disgust or avoidance. This is a fascinating one. So is it the red colors, I don't know. I'm not going to go any further on that one, but this is an interesting question to look into. 5, clowns' unpredictable behavior makes people uncomfortable. Fear of clowns has been learned from other people. Clowns are just not popular in media or culture, and so maybe those portrayals are, again, teaching through society. And then, like I said, lots of people have a frightening experience with a clown. So they discovered through their work that this, even though a lot of people have scary experiences, that was the lowest level of agreement. So this is not the explanation for why most people have a fear of the clown. So they discovered that for a lot of people, the negative portrayal of clowns in popular culture was a big factor in leading to their fear. Um, so maybe Ronald McDonald's, I don't know, maybe Pennywise, I'm not sure, whatever. But the hidden emotional signals was what they found as the largest factor in their research when they asked people questions related to all of their questions. They discovered that it was because the clown's true faces are hidden. And so we don't understand the emotional intent and there's uncertainty. So we don't know whether they're angry or sad or whether they're actually happy. So we don't know what's going to happen. So maybe that leads into other aspects of their behavior and what we think about them. So is it the makeup? Is it more popular culture? What's going on with clowns, everybody? I don't know. I'm not gonna be afraid of clowns, although maybe I'm not going to watch Stephen King's It anytime soon. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. While I have been running down a couple of stories related to our Twissoween celebration, it is time for me to bring a guest into the show so that we can have a really good conversation. It's time for that. Before I do, I want to say thanks for everyone for watching. If you are really enjoying the show, make sure to share with a friend. You can head over to TWIS.org and click on our Patreon link. That's where you can help support the show as part of our community. If you're interested in merchandise, there's some holidays coming up pretty soon. You can support the show through our Zazzle store. So go to TWIS.org and click either on the Patreon link or the Zazzle link or both and take yourself down that TWIS rabbit hole. We really can't do it without you. So thank you so much for your support. All right, coming on back, it is time for more This Week in Science. It is time for me to introduce our guest for the evening. Our guest tonight is Juliana Tafur, and Juliana is the inaugural director of Bridging Differences program at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center. A Colombian American, her work focuses on strengthening social connections across lines of race, religion, culture, politics, and more in order to foster a culture of understanding and belonging in the United States and beyond. Juliana, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Dr. Kiki. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. It is just a joy to be able to get you on the show to talk about some stuff that I've personally been working on in my own science communication work and my own life because it's it's time for that. But as we get started, I do just want to kind of address the big elephant in the room that the election is less than a week away and emotions are heightened and people have been watching negative advertising and attack ads and getting all sorts of media, lots of people fomenting stuff on social media and old style media, etc. How are you feeling?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, I decided months ago that I wanted to do something about the anxiety that I was sure to feel around this time. So I decided to
Yeah.
launch this 7-day challenge as part of a campaign for connection. So at the Greater Good Science Center, we have been not campaigning for a candidate, but campaigning for connection. And that's not because we don't believe in who should be the winner of this election, right? We're not into kind of mushy middle ground and flattening of identities. We are who we are, and from that point forward, we bridge differences. But I just knew myself, and I knew that I needed to do this to not fall into the pattern of the news cycle and the constant updates and the bickering and the fear response that naturally our body goes to. So it's
Right. Yeah.
really wonderful to have an outlet and be so busy that I can't really do that.
Well, I mean, that could be part of it, right? You just don't have time to think about of all the emotional stuff and go down the rabbit hole and just kind of circle down the drain of emotions. But what is this 7-day campaign, and what brought you to starting it? What's going on, and how'd you get here?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to acknowledge, right, that yes, although I have been super busy, it is heartbreaking, right, to see the current state of division and polarization, and especially the rhetoric that is so set on dividing us and turning us into them and them into us. And for many like me who devote our lives to this work, it's heart wrenching, right? Um, but we keep doing it, and we keep showing up, and we keep providing tools so others believe that it's possible
Mm-hmm.
and also try it out. Which leads me to Campaign for Connection and what got me here. So the what got me here started for me after the 2016 election. Precisely for some of the same reasons. And thank you for popping up the Campaign for Connection. Some of the same reasons that we're seeing now, right? But in 2016, for the first time, as long as I could remember, I think the bickering and the fear was so strong that I wanted to attempt to understand people who I was having a hard time understanding. And all I could feel was, well, this othering is leading to more othering in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who had been on a long journey to expand perspectives and to understand the lives and stories of people who were very different from me, I felt really called to bring folks together across differences and invite them to see each other across the complex topics of abortion, guns, and immigration.
And
And
those are complex, like, and people call them trigger issues. People, will call them, the hot button, uh, contested, controversial topics in our politics. I
yeah,
mean, that's something, people say, don't talk about religion or politics at the dinner table.
that's right.
Have you always talked about religion and politics at the dinner table, or do you just do it now?
Yeah, so for me, I think I grew up hearing over and over again that people had stories, that people were made of stories, that we were all unique and different as a result of
Mm,
our stories. And that was repeated to me so much. I think it was just part of how my dad saw the world and invited us to see the world. Maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, I don't know. But he would be the type that, like, when we would drive past a bus stop full of people, he would always turn to us and be like, look at all those people, right? Like, look at all those stories. And so, just like the power of discovering who people are was always like a strong, I guess, uh, I don't know, tenet. I don't know if it was a value. I don't know what to
yeah.
call it, but it was so present, the uniqueness of who we are and the uniqueness of who we are across differences, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't so much that I had a ton of practice having conversations across those differences, but I was really invited to understand that we all have stories that shape us and make us. And how can you hate when you really get to know someone's story was really at the core of it. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's the question of how can you, if you know where somebody came from. So with this background, as you've gotten into the campaign, and well, first the Bridging Differences initiative, but now the 7-day campaign, um, how are you structuring this program to address the fact that people don't want to ask questions, that they're tired, that they
Mhm.
um, just, I see you like that. You're wearing hat, clothes, whatever you're doing. You do certain things, you say certain words, you are a certain way, and I'm just gonna. It's easier for me to just think of you that way.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, Dr. Kiki, I run the Bridging Differences program at the Greater Good Science Center, and we translate research to practice for those of you who
Mhm.
don't know who we are and what we do at the Greater Good. And it's based out of UC Berkeley. And so the translation of basically the science of human connection, right? How is it that across our differences, we can still expand our circle of concern for
Mhm.
people who might be out of our group or different from us. And that's what we do every day of our lives. This campaign for connection is a little part of what we do
Yeah.
within the bridging program. We have programs in higher ed and in communities. We have a big program in Colorado that's promoting a state of where everyone belongs. But so Campaign for Connection really was born out of these kind of this realization that we are, I would say, 3/4 of Americans are so exhausted by the tension, by the division. They really want to do something about it. And we know that, yes, we're divided. We no longer live in the same neighborhoods. We are not marrying across political party lines. We are ending relationships over political disagreements, right? All of that is true. But
Yeah.
there's hope. There's truly hope in that 75% of Americans believe it's important to hear different political views, even when they don't agree with all of them. 75% of Americans desire a shift in political discourse and really believe that moving beyond political hostility and divisiveness is a positive step forward.
Yeah.
So we are tapping into this exhausted majority group that is often not the loudest group, right? So it is not the group we're hearing from in social media. It is not the group that is informing this perception of the reality that we think we all live in, which is so divided and hopelessly divided, right? So it's a group that's quieter, that's truly exhausted and tapped out, and so we are providing them with science-based skills so that they know that this is possible, so that they see examples of this being possible, and so they can try it out. And at the core of it, truly, is that division hurts us. So we just want people to know that, science also tells us that it hurts not only our relationships, as we all know and have experienced, but it hurts our well-being.
Mm.
And obviously, I think we're all aware that division also hurts the very fabric of our democracy. So
There's like the division is one thing, but then like the absolute polarization that's been occurring is another aspect to it. That extreme, just the rift growing,
correct,
right?
correct.
It's we can have disagreements. We can have, things. I can want something that you don't want,
Mhm. Yes.
but if we can't talk about it, so
Mhm.
here's the I guess the question is, how is science helping here? What science is there that actually suggests that there are methods or ways forward?
Yeah, yeah. So for us in the Bridging Differences program, it all started with a Bridging Differences playbook where we have 14 science-based skills for bridging differences, and the playbook continues to grow. So some of those skills, which we are promoting and sharing as part of the campaign, involve things that you can do at the intrapersonal level, right? You can do yourself to either get yourself ready or to reset, or after you've engaged with someone. There are interpersonal skills that you can have with someone else. And then there's intergroup skills, which are skills that we teach for people who are more bridgers, right? For people who are bringing folks together actively. And I'll share a few at the different levels, and I'd love for us to have a conversation about them. But
Love
there's
to. Yeah.
one that that's like an easier start for a lot of folks. That doesn't really involve truly engaging with someone initially, which invites you to see the person and not the label. So the idea, as science has shown us, is that when we view people and learn either personal details about them or just imagine personal details about them, we are able to view them with more warmth, which is truly fascinating because it starts with even asking ourselves without engaging with the other person, do they like broccoli or carrots? Do they like tots or dogs? Yeah, it's right?
It's like that is not where I would have started. How interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because what it does is it taps into our fear response and,
Fear of broccoli. No, I'm kidding.
it almost hacks our brain, right? In
Mhm.
when we are encounter a threat or fear, and our amygdala is, reacting, we tap into that by actually asking ourselves these questions that then in turn make us see the person as another human with unique qualities and traits just like we do, right? So in the act
Mm,
of humanizing them, we are calming down our amygdala and
mm.
and and gaining again our composure and also I think increasing our ability then from that point forward to understand this is just another person with unique traits, desires, characteristics, and maybe I could just engage with them from that place, right? Uh,
Yeah, and then you ask, "Is a hot dog a sandwich?" And and the debate begins.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and that's a kind of an easy one. I'll tell you about a particular study also involving this skill of like seeing the person and not the label, or I've also called it in the past humanizing, not categorizing. I think in our Bridging Differences playbook, we call it something else, but I've moved away from that title. But the idea here, there was another study that introduced this character, fictitious character named Alex, to people, and some people were just told Alex was a Democrat or a Republican.
Mhm.
And others were told, well, she's a Democrat or a Republican, but here's what she has for breakfast. And here's where she works. And here are details of her personal life, like her family. And again, what they found was that for those who knew, yes, her political party, but also these personal details about her from her social media feed, they were able to not have warmer feelings towards her, although they still disagreed with her political position. So it's all about getting to know the personal details and how that begins to create warmth, so that we can then, engage in a different way. So
Yeah.
that's one for starters, but we can continue talking about others.
No, I think it's the as somebody who has, a bit of neurodivergence and is busily trying to remember somebody's name and go through my mental tricks, when I meet somebody in person to remember their name, oftentimes, um, there are other bits and pieces of information that are lost, and because
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember their name. Um, and so I am basing a lot on behaviors and how people are acting physically, their facial expressions and their body language. Is there any science beyond the actual like information about people's lives, into how we can, how we can uh, just see other people and view them as humans, other people like us as not other, and view them with compassion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, there's several things that I can point to, but I guess what's most
Might be a little off script from your playbook, but
yeah. I guess I guess what's most present, as you ask that question, is the power of listening, which is one that I always kind of gravitate towards. It was also my kind of entryway into this work, and I truly love it.
and
Um,
you have a TEDx talk on
yeah, yeah.
listening, which is great.
So I appreciate it. Yeah, but I like listening with compassion for a number of reasons, and it's I don't think it directly answers your question. So I
But
will
it's a good topic. Go ahead. You can touch and turn. It's
I will ask
fabulous.
I will ask you to um, I will ask you to remind me about your question, which was more connected to what we can see, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess that's why listening was present because there's so much we can see when we listen. There's so much we can grasp that perhaps we didn't know was there. So, and we're talking about like this deep listening, as in um, almost listening with the intent to co-create, listening with the intent to kind of open your heart to someone and allow in the listening for them to be seen, for them to make sense of their story. When we listen, we're listening to not only words, but like you said, we're listening to body gestures, movement. We're listening to energy. If we want to get
Mhm.
kind of spiritual, like we listen to so much more than words, which is, I think, why your question led me to listening. And then there's also all the science of listening. But I want to just what's present now is this really beautiful quote by David Augsburger. It's a quote I love and I often cite. But in this book, old book called Caring Enough to Confront, but he says being listened to is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're almost indistinguishable. So
That is
just
a big one. That's so strong.
it is, isn't it? Like it makes you like pause for a minute because it taps into something we all know and understand, which is this fundamental need, desire that we all have to be listened to, and also something that's really present for all of us, which is we're not listened to very much, right? And especially in these divisive times, we feel like we're not listened to, we're not understood, we're not seen. Um, so I wanna mention the science of listening and the power of the science of listening because people don't really know it, have heard of it. And it starts, plain and simple. Like if we want to be understood, we should truly start by listening more closely to folks. The question is why, right? Like that sounds good, but why, right? Like what does science tell us about it? And what science tells us is that when we listen, we are perceived immediately, are perceived by the other person, the person who's listening to us, who we're listening to, as more trustworthy. And it also encourages our conversation partners to be more open minded and to be less defensive. And in some cases, science has also shown less focused on their self interests. So it's this like powerful, really powerful technique that if you enter a conversation with this like openness and willingness to listen, not necessarily because you will open the other person to listen to you, but because you want to serve them. And what ends up happening is you transform them. You transform how they see you, how they engage with you. So it's really powerful. It's like a secret.
The secret, oops, sorry, hitting my microphone. I'm so excited. Uh, the secret to social interactions is listening. Who knew? But this is something that in science communication, it's the stuff that you're talking about. It's like so new and amazing. it's being taught to scientists, and the science communication training now is listen to people, have
Mm,
compassion for people, don't just talk,
mm,
and ask them questions, find out more about other people, so when you're and then there's the neuroscience of it as well, that when you are listening, you're doing the physical behavioral manifestations of paying attention, right? And so that it leads to a synchronization, and it helps to benefit that synchronization of neural pathways between individuals.
yes, yes, I love that,
Yeah.
and it's so powerful. Just to be reminded of that. Yes, and that ties back to your question. Listening more than words, listening to bodies, and listening to brains. What are doing when we listen, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
one of the hardest parts, though, that we have seen so much that I've learned about in research, having been a neuroscientist, and I love I love all this stuff, interpersonal neuroscience. I think it's so fun. But the connection between us, very often, though, it is the one person is trying to predict, the brain of a one person is trying to predict where the other person's brain is going to go. And
mm,
so the synchronization is occurring because
mm,
of eye blinks and auditory signals and that prediction engine that our brains are. And but at the same time, because of the prediction, we can get so caught up in what we think is going to be coming and what we think we have to say next, that we're
mhm.
not actually paying attention to what is coming out of the other person's mouth. And so I think that's where, like, the neuroscience of it is like, okay, we got to break that pattern. you know, break
Abs-
that behavioral pattern, right?
Absolutely. And we actually have this framework for compassionate listening, and that's one of the things we say, right? Like, are you actually present? Are you actually listening, focused on the conversation, almost like mentally anchoring on what the speaker is saying without necessarily preparing a response in your mind, right? And just this awareness that when we do that, we are automatically not present anymore. Like, we have lost it. We are not
Right.
listening in its full kind of fullness of the word, right? So then we add like listening with compassion or active listening, but why do we need to, like, when you listen. Right? But yeah, so among the things we share when inviting folks to listen, in addition to being present, being curious, right? Starting with
Mhm.
open-ended questions and encouraging the other person to share more, as well as affirming feelings and intentions and almost like experiences, right? And
Mhm.
affirming does not mean agreeing with. You're just validating what the person
Mhm.
has been through. You're acknowledging their emotions, you're acknowledging their life story. Um, and then, back to kind of neuroscience, like this connection, at the empathy level, right? Like, trying to communicate to them that you truly understand why they feel the way they feel, although you may not agree with it, but like, you're agreeing with their experience, and affirming them also. And engage body language, which I think you touched on as well, right?
Mhm.
Listening through your body, eye contact, nodding, open posture, like all of that speaks, and says something also about the way that you listen.
So there's how we listen, and also how we are coming into conversations or into interactions online or off, actually trying to consider people as other human beings as opposed to combatants.
Mm,
Um, are there any other specific methods or research findings that you want to focus on?
yeah. So there's one that I feel like is less obvious to most folks, called self-distancing. So when conversations get heated, right, there's this tendency to kind of like get caught up in our own thoughts and emotions. And how much that prevents us from engaging constructively. So
Never experienced that before, ever. Never.
you must not be from this world then.
Right.
So yeah, so self-distancing encourages us to view ourselves from an outsider's perspective, almost by thinking about yourself in the third person. So if I'm getting really angry about something, instead of asking myself, well, I'm angry, right? Why am I so angry? I would take a step back and I would ask myself, why is Juliana so angry? What about this is making her so angry? So, what science shows us is that this simple change in pronouns allows us to take a beat and zoom out and see the conversation almost from an outsider's perspective, like I said, and regain clarity and come back. So just
Does the
know,
research oh, sorry. Does
yeah,
the research suggest that it's, that we can do this in the moment? Is this something that takes a lot of work to get good at?
yeah. So what we say is you would start this uh, practice when tensions aren't the highest, when
Mm,
maybe you catch yourself seeing a post on social media that is disturbing, but you don't feel like you're in the midst of it, right? And that
mhm.
as you practice and progressively get more comfortable doing this, because it feels a little bit weird at first, that when you are in a more heated conversation, you are then able to go back to, okay, my body knows how to do this. I've tried this
Right.
out before. I've got the muscle for it, right? So yeah, so we do recommend starting at a lower intensity.
Right. Lower risk level.
Yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely. And yeah, and for example, for Campaign for Connection, when we're
mhm.
inviting people to try this out, we're also asking people to kind of like set reminders on their phone and remind themselves during the day to pause. Like we could do that over the next week, right? When we're so caught up and anxious and stressed out and fearful of the election results, if we just pause for a few moments during the day and asked ourselves, how is Dr. Kiki feeling right now? Right? Like, it may seem
Yeah.
awkward at first, but it's this idea of, like, this quick check-in and how that can help you reinforce the habit of observing rather than being absorbed by your emotions. So, an invitation to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, all of it is an invitation, and, and in this, I hope that that our listeners, can find some things that they find useful, right? That maybe not everything is something they want to apply or can apply, or, these are not, you know, difficult things to put into use in your own life, but at the same time, I was talking with a friend the other day, and she was talking about the election and, talking about a conversation with somebody else and how emotional she got and how she just had to, stop the conversation.
Yeah,
And, there were no more spoons. There's no more mental energy to be able to even check in that moment to keep the conversation going,
yeah,
right? So, um, you know, right now is not a time, I guess, of, low stakes for a lot of people in terms of what they're thinking about if they're concerned about the election or they're, thinking about politics or
yeah,
what's happening that much. Different people have different things that are important to them, but um,
yeah.
yeah,
I just wanna say, to what you're saying and what
mm,
your friend, experienced and expressed to you,
yeah,
bridging, is not without risks, right? In that you
yeah,
you do expose vulnerability. So we do say that it's not necessarily the right thing for every person in every situation,
right,
and that there are some people who maybe won't be bridge builders or not be bridge builders now.
Right.
And that's okay too. What we go by is as long as someone's opposing belief is not denying your existence, and if respect is present, then we can have these conversations and or enter into cooperation or collaboration across our differences, because it's not only about conversations. But it's so important to remember that.
It really is. I mean, there's, you know, in science communication, we talk about it a lot, which is, the common method of giving scientific information, which has led to a lot of issues through the pandemic and also related to public health issues moving forward, which is this just delivering information. And then you need to believe me, and I'm right. And then as soon as anyone tries to come back with any commentary or debate, it's an immediate immediate assumption that that person is denying who
Mm,
they are as a scientist. Social media, there is a lot of that for different individuals, and I'm not going to deny that that's not going on. But um, is there how do we break those knee-jerk reactions when we've been trained to deliver information a particular way or trained to interact, since birth,
mm,
differently, not to listen to stories, not to be looking for that, but to be, and especially with the way that social media works now, it's very polarized.
yeah, yeah. Well, social media is a whole different.
Bag of worms. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're interacting across these screens, and sometimes the profiles are fake, and sometimes the pictures are fake, and we don't feel the need sometimes to measure what we say and how we say it and how it will be interpreted by the other person, and then everything around us is so normalized in these extremes because of algorithms. So all of a sudden we think that's okay and normal and fine. And so, yeah, I mean, social media is so complex. All of that said, I think we can all take steps to be better in daily life, real life, and in our social media life. But that only depends on us.
Yeah.
So I think it if you are part of the 3 out of 4, 75% of Americans who are simply exhausted, and who also understand that the state of division and polarization is hurting us, that it is hurting our well-being, that it's hurting our families, that it's hurting our children, um, then you want to take steps to do something about it. So I do want to say that what we know from science, going back to kind of like why even bridge, right? Which
Exactly. Yeah.
may be a question
Big
that
question right now.
blows
Yeah.
minds, right?
Mhm.
We know that prejudices and fears about the other, any other, elevates stress. We also know that students feel safer, less bullied, and less lonely in more ethnically integrated schools. We know it's good for families because many of us experience that, we have an estranged family member, or we're no longer doing Thanksgiving dinner. There is research that points to Thanksgiving dinners being a whole hour shorter in
Yeah,
places.
that's coming up. So, yeah.
Exactly. And then kind of taking it to workplaces, right? If you just want to, deal with colleagues who are different from you, we do know that diverse teams perform better with the right skills and conditions. It's not just about throwing a bunch of people who are different in a room and, having them cooperate, but some of the skills are some of the skills we talk about, right? Listening with compassion, and truly like seeking to understand a person's story, and self-distancing if you need to self-regulate and come back to a conversation. Yeah, which I think brings me to a different skill, which is common goals, like the importance of getting around a goal that we share, that is important to both of us, because that gets away from I'm just going to have a conversation with you because I am recognizing that this is harming me, hurting me, and I want to take a step. And I just want to talk to you for the sake of connecting with you, which is something that a lot of people may be inclined to do. But if you are not inclined to do that and you still have to collaborate and find common goals with colleagues because you have a joint project that you need to get out, then that's another good reason to need to know how to collaborate across lines of difference. And what we know about that is that when we understand that we need each other to achieve things that are important to different groups, it may be, the sales department and the marketing department of a company, right? Like just working jointly, we know that we shift from seeing people as adversaries to collaborators. And if nothing else, for like efficiency and improved processes and achieving things that are important to us, whether it's work-wise or, improving the quality of education of our children, right? And like at board meetings, being able to come together with folks who are different from you to achieve that goal.
And I think the data that you brought up at the very beginning with the 75% of people, that is across party lines, that's across different age groups and sexes, and it's 75% of people would like to bridge are tired of all of this. But yeah, so there's a commonality right there.
There
And,
is.
and I think that's like, okay, common goal.
There
Let's
is.
connect.
Yeah.
Let's be better together.
Let's do it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to emphasize that because I can stay in the we are so hopelessly divided, right? Like, and we won't reach anyone with that rhetoric because people are already tapped out. So
we know, even though there's a negativity bias in people, if there isn't hope, people don't want to do it. There's nothing. People are, I can't do anything about it, whatever. So
correct.
What's the hope? Yeah.
Correct. Yep. And then I will also share, Dr. Kiki, that we often are trying to appeal to folks on the values that matter to us. So just as a back of your head, that when you're having a bad conversation or a conversation that is not going anywhere, it's oftentimes because you are not speaking to their values, to values that matter to them. And just a reminder that across the political spectrum, research has shown us that Democrats and Republicans value, or conservatives and liberals, to not give it a label. Everything is labels. But
come on, right? Everything is binary. One or the
other. And that we value different things, right? So in this study, I think from 2009, Jonathan Haidt, who you might know, and several colleagues found that truly liberals and conservatives rely on different moral foundations, and liberals tend to emphasize things like harm and care and fairness, while conservatives tend to give more emphasis or importance to values like loyalty, authority, or sanctity even. So the idea is that as you are having a conversation with someone that you understand is different from you, just getting at the root of like, what value is most important to you, or what experiences have shaped values that are more important to you, and how that gives you clues as to how to approach them on this thing that also matters to you through the lens of what matters to them. And how that begins to shift the conversation, not only because they feel seen, but also because you're speaking their language. So not with the intent of convincing them of
but just to connect, right? Just to actually have a conversation and not fight.
Correct. Exactly. And just saying, like, I understand that, you value X, right? Like, ties back to the being seen and being heard, right? Like you actually listened to them and you understood them. You understood this that is so important to them. And from that place, you are attempting to connect with something that matters to you.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one. These are all big. They're
Mm.
yeah. They're not easy either because so often like the perspective, the values-based perspective is sometimes it's so hard to try and figure out where
Mm.
someone else is coming from. What could possibly, how to put yourself in their shoes, how to think in a way that's similar. And I think that's often a, a stumbling block.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you find that people going through these methods and work that you've been working with, do other people have this kind of stumbling block? And have there been ways to move past it?
I think the first stumbling block is whether we want to engage or not,
Yeah.
especially because we feel threatened, right? We feel that how can I engage with this group that doesn't see me or that believes in policies that will disregard my group entirely. And it's real. I mean, when it comes to politics, it's real. Like there are
Yeah.
real consequences, and it's really hard because you're not only talking at the level of, I'm this group, identity group, and I want to connect with the other identity group, and we are just different people, right? At the level of identity. I think when it comes to politics and policies that end up impacting our lives, it is more complex, and I get it. The idea is that the more that we do this, and again, if you are in a position to want to do it, where you're not being disrespected, where your sense of being identity is not at stake, you're not being dehumanized, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and you're not in harm's way, right? As a
Mhm.
matter of engaging in this conversation.
Those are very important things to to include in that assessment, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if you've got all of that met and you feel like it's to your benefit to engage because you truly want to learn, you truly want to inform yourself, understand where they're coming from, try to see the world through their perspective, not because you want to change them, not because you want to change yourself, but because you want to connect at a deeper level while still disagreeing, then you build bridges, right? Like that's
Mhm.
like the motivation needs to be right. And
Yeah.
and then the other thing I will say is it's not always about the long bridges, right? Like the long bridge of I am connecting with someone who is very different from me, who also has a political position very different from me and comes from a very different part of the country from like right like the longest bridge. The idea is to maybe start with shorter bridges if you don't feel ready to go the long bridge all at
Mhm.
once, walk the long bridge all at once. And maybe this looks like engaging with a family member, although
Yeah.
those are not easy either,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's
It
something
can be
that you
too, but
are
it's something you're already close to
close to
potentially.
you, within kind of a similar, not equal, but similar context, lived experience, someone who loves you, right? Like, and sometimes they can be really candid, but at least you have a lot in common.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think your comment, having the right motivation is important as well because that is the basis. Having the energy, having the right situation, and then having the right motivation. Because if you
yeah.
don't have the right motivation, then uh, the the bridge is gonna be faulty.
Mhm.
It's gonna break and fall down. Trust is gonna be broken at some point.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah,
right?
but we also find that motivation alone isn't enough, right? So
Right.
like there needs to be skills and
Mhm.
awareness. of
Yep.
skills that you can kind of bring in and latch onto in order to be able to have like real productive conversations. And then the more you do it and the more you figure out that, hey, I listened and the walls came down and then they were listening and maybe we didn't agree, but we got to know each other better. And so the more you experience moments of like true connection, the more you want to do it, the more you understand that this actually works. And it may not work with everyone, right? And that's the other thing. Like, not everyone will want to bridge with you either, and that's okay. You also have to know that. But
And
sometimes,
it's okay to
yeah,
walk away, right?
it's
Just let it go.
okay to walk away. It's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to not engage entirely. Like, this is not work that's done by demand. It's not like we converted to bridge builders and we will forever in every situation all the time have to build bridges. No, like, not even people who work with this stuff and have all the skills in the toolbox should do that. Like, it's not,
Right.
again, work that's done by demand.
Mhm.
And if there isn't openness on the other side and willingness to engage, and if you feel at risk or threatened by a situation, you just walk away.
Yeah.
I've had to walk away of situations like that myself.
Yeah. I think it's knowing that there are scientifically based tools that are, they have been practiced and they are used. There is a toolbox that's available that people can learn about and use, and then apply if they have the right situation. If everything aligns correctly, they can try.
Yeah.
And, if you can try, that's the first step.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, and I just like to remind people that yes, we are caught in these binaries of you are this, I am that, but there are things we share. So, like, if nothing else, like using that as a starting point to like truly seek to understand what is it that we might share despite our differences as a broader identity that might unite us, that might allow us to step back from this in-group mentality.
Mhm.
And there's a really cool study around this with Manchester United soccer team and soccer
Oh,
fans.
cool.
So, yeah, if we want
I mean,
to,
that's high stakes. There's like violence that occurs at these soccer matches, at the football matches, right? These
yeah,
teams, the
a lot,
fans other each other, and there's a lot of aggression. So yeah.
a lot of passion and
Mhm.
a lot of
Emotions run high.
mentality too, right? So the study involved bringing these soccer fans together and having them think of the team Manchester United and the wins of Manchester United and the passion and love for the team itself. And then folks were sent across a parking lot and they encountered, in some cases, someone who was wearing a Manchester United shirt, in other cases, someone who was wearing a Liverpool shirt, the rival team. And in this case, where they were just made to think of their in group and the passion and love for Manchester United, they were 4 times more likely to help the person in need if they were wearing a Manchester United jersey
Right.
than if they were wearing
Mhm.
the jersey of the rival team.
Yep.
They repeated the experiment also with Manchester United fans, but instead of thinking of the team itself, they were made to think of football fans in general and their identity as people who love, or not football, soccer. In
Yeah.
Spanish it's football.
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 Uh-huh.
Their identity as soccer fans, and what it meant to be with other soccer fans and share experiences around being a soccer fan, etc. And then again, they were sent across a parking lot, person in need, sometimes Manchester United jersey, sometimes Liverpool jersey. And in that case, it totally changed. When they encountered the person in need, they helped the person wearing the Manchester United jersey just as much as they helped the person wearing the rival team's jersey.
Yeah. So it was the awareness and the appreciation of being in it together. And this is a thing that we share. And yeah, that's beautiful. And as David Ha is saying in our chat right now, it sounds like a Ted Lasso episode to me. Which, thank goodness for Ted Lasso. That was really just, oh, we all needed that one.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah.
That's
You know,
great.
narrow identity as a fan of a particular team, versus broader identity and what that does to us, right?
Yeah.
Um, in terms of spreading more kindness
Yeah.
and being more generous to others, just with that minor prompting. So I want folks to kind of know and understand that that's available to all of us, right? Like minor prompting in
We
our
can
own
go back
in
to,
our own minds, in our own lives, in the lives of others. Like
yeah.
it doesn't take much. What unites us? Is there a broader shared identity, right? Like
We can go back to peas and carrots. It doesn't matter. They're starchy vegetables. We all eat starchy vegetables.
yeah, yeah, all the way from back to humanizing folks,
Mhm.
to finding something bigger
Yeah.
that that
What is that
maybe we're all
connecting
part
factor?
of. Yeah.
I love that. And I just want to say thank you for this conversation and speaking with me for all this time. It's just been wonderful to hear all of these ideas and the science behind them and the ways that people can use them. And I hope that our listeners can take some of these things and take them into the next week, into Thanksgiving, into the next year.
Mm.
And in the meantime, would you like people to go to the Campaign for Connection website? Is this something that is ongoing that you'd like people to take a look at and try out? And what else can people do, and where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, our campaign for connection just launched, and it's going to be going into the new year. As soon as people sign up, they will get 7 days of skills to practice. So it's a skill a day in their inbox with tools and resources to support them, as well as an Instagram group where people can join and kind of comment, or not Instagram group, Instagram posts where people can join
Great.
and comment and kind of connect with other shared experiences. And where people can go is there's a tiny URL. So tinyurl.com/ number 7 day with D caps challenge with C caps 24. So 7 day challenge 24. And I
As
can
I'm
share it
typing it
also.
out right now, and
Oh, thank
hopefully
you.
I typed it correctly. And
So I can repeat it.
there we go.
Number 7, D caps for day, C caps for challenge 24. It's a tiny URL. And if you check us out at
Mhm.
Instagram, we're either at Greater Good Mag, which is the official kind of Greater Good Science Center account. And then we also created for Bridging
Mhm.
Differences an account called at GGSC Bridging Differences. So GG, so Greater Good S Science Center.
Bridging differences,
Yeah,
yes. I've
GGSC
got
Bridging.
that one and, in the Instagrams. I can bring that one up.
Yeah, I've been trying to do these minute and a half videos to invite people to practice the skills. So you'll see
Cool.
some of those here. As you see in our Instagram, we're in day 3, going into day 4. But when you join,
Nice.
you will have your own kind of personal experience where each day you'll get a different skill. So you haven't missed out on anything.
Fantastic. So there are
Yeah.
places that people can go, there are things that they can do. This can be an ongoing, effort, and it can be a new effort or something that accentuates what they've already been doing if they're working on this. What's next for you?
Whew. Um, I know, sleeping a lot after this election. Yeah, no, we've been so busy getting this
Yeah.
campaign out in the world, which I'm very grateful for an amazing team and all of their support. It's really been a fantastic team effort. Um, yeah, so we have a statewide initiative in the state of Colorado, which is keeping me really busy to turn Colorado, help make Colorado a state where everyone feels like they belong across all lines of difference. And that's really exciting work in community. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's housed at the Denver Foundation. We are the implementation partner for this initiative, and currently we're training 15 organizations and practitioners on the ground who are bringing folks together
Amazing.
across differences. And their work is about to begin a 2-year cycle of implementation where we will also accompany them in technical assistance. So really exciting to see how our work begins to spread in community and truly have an impact in people's lives. We also have a lot of work that we do in the higher education space as part of our learning fellowships. So far we've trained and worked, have the privilege of working with 250 universities across the country, equipping them with some of the science-based skills for bridging differences so that they can implement it in their universities and university-wide programs and curriculum. And so we're really
Fantastic.
busy with that too. And obviously, post October 7th last year, there's been so much need at universities across the country. So our work there has only intensified, and we continue to show up in these spaces where we may be needed. But
There's a
lots.
huge need, and I hope that the work in Colorado goes well because I can see it becoming a model for other states if it is, if it can be implemented well over the next 2 years over in the different communities with the different groups that you're bringing together. I really see this network building and community building as such a huge part of our social network, right? Our social fabric and fixing all of those holes in the torn socks and a little bit of darning as opposed to rending. And
Mm,
yeah. So I hope it goes really well, and I can't wait to hear how it goes. I
thank
hope
you.
that we
I
stay in touch.
appreciate it. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing our best to document as well as measure and evaluate each and every single one of the programs so that we can learn what is working, what isn't working,
good.
and continue iterating. Right? We're like
Yep.
this work is ever growing, and it's exciting to apply the science to these very kind of real, sometimes visceral, like scenarios with in
Yeah.
community with folks who are like at it,
Mhm.
and understand all the nuances of it. Because it's one thing to talk about it and to teach it and to spread it and to then be distanced from the work, and it's another thing to really be in the midst of really
Yeah.
complex projects and understand in the real world how to implement it, and what do we need to then report back or change as how we even refer to the practices. And
Which I think it's wonderful. I mean, the evaluation aspect, I mean, that is science, right? It is the iteration. It's also engineering, right? It is taking what you're learning, bringing it back in, evaluating, going, okay, this is what we need to fix. This is what we need to do. How can we do it better?
Mhm,
Version
mhm.
2. Or this version goes out this way and this version goes out that way, different groups need different versions, and you start to figure out how it works, but we can't ever do that without the process. So thank you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think we'll be moving more towards equipping folks who also want to do this work, but don't necessarily have the tools yet. Not
Yeah.
only here at the individual level, but folks who actually want to bring groups together, or folks who are connectors themselves, and um, in positions of influence, and in positions to like impact entire organizations. So we're really all about kind of spreading the seeds so others take them and do something with it. So
Love
excited
it.
for what's ahead, and thank you for this space. I've loved this conversation, and thank you for everyone who joined us and geeked out with us on the science of
Yeah.
social connection.
Yeah, and I saw some good comments in there, people having fun, but also having some real thoughtful moments in our chat room. So
Mm.
thank
Okay.
you so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. And yeah,
Happy
we will
Halloween.
send links to everything. I will post links to everything that you're doing and that you've shared here on the show.
Thank you. And if anyone has a specific thought or question, or if this moves something in them and they'd like to, chat on the side, please email me. I'm at juliana.tafur@berkeley.edu. I'd love to hear from you and support you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiki.
Thank you for joining me. It's been really, really wonderful to speak with you.
Likewise. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
All right, everybody. This is This Week in Science. We have been having an amazing interview with Juliana Tafur from the Greater Good Science Center. And like I said, I will be putting all the links from everything that she referenced in our show notes to go on our website, TWIS.org. I don't have a co-host. I think we've made it to the end of the show. It happened. Yes, we did it. We made it to the end of the show. So I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us for another episode of TWIS. Thank you for being here and for enjoying the Twissoween science and the good social connecting science. Speaking of connections, I want to give some shout outs to people. Thank you to Fada for help with social media and show notes. Thanks to Gord and Arnlor for manning the chat rooms. Oh, thanks to everybody in the chat rooms. Thank you so much for being here. It's really just wonderful to look in the chat room and see the comments from everybody who is here and hanging out with us. Also, thank you to Identity4 for recording the show and Rachel for editing the show. And always, many, many thanks to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you too. And now is the moment when I have to bring up the patron list. Here it is. Yes. Thank you to Eden Mundell, Alan Viola, Aaron Anathema, Arthur Kepler, Craig Potts, Mary Gertz, Teresa Smith, Richard Badge, Bob Coles, Kent Northcote, George Corris, Pierre Velazarb, John Ratnaswamy, Chris Wozniak, Vegard Shefstad, Jonathan Stiles, aka Don Stylo, Ali Coffin, Reagan Shubru, Sarah Forfar, Don Mundis, PIG, Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Andrew Swanson, Fredus 104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, David E. Youngblood, Sean Clarence Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Steve Leesman, aka Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Richard Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Remy Day, G. Burton Lattimore, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, RDM, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, Lon Make, CEO, Adam Mishkan, Kevin Parachan, Erden Luthen, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul D. Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, and Tony Steele. Thanks to you all for your support on Patreon, because without you, we would not be able to do this show. If you would like to support us on Patreon, please head over to twist.org and click on the Patreon link. $10 and more, and I will be able to thank you by name at the end of the show. Woo, exciting times. Okay, now I'm going to say all the things. On next week, we're going to be back with another show. Will there be co-hosts? I don't know. I'll be here. Will I? Probably. It's going to be the first week of November. Whee! Okay, we'll be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live from our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, just search wherever This Week in Science podcasts are found, which is pretty much everywhere. And ask your friends to subscribe too. Like, send them a link and say, you should subscribe. Or if you're with them at a coffee shop, get their phone, be like, subscribe to this podcast. It'd be pretty awesome. For more information on anything that you have heard here today, show notes and all links to stories are going to be available at our website, twist.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter. It'll be sent eventually. We love your feedback. And if there is a topic you want us to cover or address, or a suggestion for an interview, let us know on one of our social media accounts, or actually send us an email. That's the best way to do it. Just put TWIS into that subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into a scary clown makeup kit. Yeah, I'm not going to go checking around there for my emails. And we look forward to discussing science with you again next week. I can't believe I have to do this by myself. And if you've learned anything else, remember, it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got...
What we say in disclaimers most certainly doesn't represent people's views most of the time. I don't know. What we say in the show doesn't represent people's views most of the time. Some of the time, I don't know. Science is hard and scary, like Halloween. It's the unknown, y'all. Uncertainty, even though everybody likes to say certainty, certainty, science, science. My hair is messing up. That is my uncertainty riddle right now. But yeah, science is uncertainty, just like clowns. Thank you, Gary Peters. Happy Halloween to you. Io Zeno, happy Halloween to you. TWIS.org. You head over there and click on the Patreon link if you're interested in sharing and helping with the Patreon. That's really fantastic. I appreciate that, Io Zeno. Thank you so much. Woo! Thank you all for being here. Io Zeno, you were late. John Hogan, Paul Disney, Kyle. Are you going to meet your nominal bedtime? Probably, yeah, because I'm by myself, so I'm going to go to bed myself. So we're not going to stay up super late tonight. Thanks, Paul. I thought it was a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed getting to kind of talk through some of the stuff that we talk about a bit, you know, from the science side, occasionally from the social science or the psychology side or whatever. But like, what do you do with it, you know? And I'm really glad that there are groups like the Greater Good Science Center and their programs like this Bridging Differences program that are really working to try and create resources and tools to make a difference using the science that people. I mean, why do the science if we can't actually put it to good use? So, fingers crossed that it leads into, like she said, evaluation and even more discoveries and better application. And maybe this is the good, y'all. This is it. People are mostly good, okay? We do want to be good. We want to like each other, at least on a surface level, right? We don't have to agree about everything. I know it's not going to fix everything for this season, but I was glad that I could bring this interview and that Juliana was up for a fantastic conversation. Thank you for appreciating it. It is all for me. I'm going to say good night, Kiki. Good night, Kiki. And thanks, John Hogan. I like the mix of people I interview too. I try to mix it up because if you're just doing the same thing all the time, it's boring, right? But anyway, yeah, what was I going to say? Good night, Kiki. I hope you all come back again next week. Have a wonderful Twistgiving. And not Twistgiving. No, wrong season. Twissoween. Scary. I jumped ahead a month. Yes, happy Twissoween. And I will see you next Wednesday. Enjoy your week. Stay safe. You know, eat the good candy or the apple or the toothbrush from the dentist's house or whatever. But don't eat that. Don't eat the toothbrush. No, brush your teeth with it. Have a great time. Dress up. Have fun. Enjoy. Live life and prosper. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay curious. And as always, stay lucky. Good night.